Hey guys, welcome to Live in the Now with your host, Reyna I'm so excited for today's episode. You guys don't even understand what you're getting ready to experience. We are not only getting to sit down in one-on-one session with one of the most amazing world-renowned travelers and explorers and magicians and family legacy changing, groundbreaking king, but we're getting to know the what and the how and the who and the when and the magic behind it all that makes him who he is and how great of a person on this earth he is. So I want you to get ready. I want you to hone in, take a moment, breathe, and understand how living in the now with Rich Manley really breathes life into this entire world. So amazing. Oh my gosh. All right. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. Live in the Now with Reyna I am so excited for this episode for so many reasons, but you're about to find out why. So I want you guys to understand the passion and power of living, right? A lot of us sometimes go through life just existing and we don't even realize it. We don't even take a moment to say, hey, whoa, did I just miss that? And I've recognized with so many people that we've had so many accomplishments throughout our life. And I'm going to get to our guest really soon because I know that he's probably experienced this as well. We've had so many accomplishments in our lives to where we almost just acknowledge them. And we keep trying to get to the next thing, accomplish the next thing, but we don't take a moment and say, wow, I did that. Wow, I'm actually living and no longer just existing. And some of us are just going our regular routes, like our regular 9-to-5s. I'm not against that at all whatsoever. Please, we need you, right? But what's inside of you that needs to come forth? Are you just working, or are you building memories with your family or your friends or your loved ones or you name it, your coworkers? Like, what are you doing in your life that defines you living and not just existing anymore? And so this episode is going to tap into a whole bunch of goodies. It's going to go over travel. It's going to go over the understanding of where it all begins and the journey into your promise. And into your promise comes your promised land. And we have the best person with us today that seriously, like, I've watched his career. I don't even know how many years it's been since I've met him, but I've watched his career through this life and through time and social media and all that. We stayed connected. And when I tell you, I don't even think he understands the fullness of what he does on a day-to-day basis and how he affects and infects people and leaves them better than they were when he arrived. And we just talked about that before we started rolling these cameras and this audio. And he lives success. He breathes success. He literally is like a steeple on this earth. Like how you see the Staples Center, it's like that center epicenter where everything magical happens. That's who our guest is today. And so I cannot wait to introduce him to you. I cannot wait for you to just tap into his world and know really and truly what it is to live in the now, no longer just existing. So I want to introduce you guys to Rich Manley.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and it's kind of, where do I go from there? That was an amazing introduction.
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah.
It was easy. Talking about you. It was easy.
Thank you.
So, Rich, I would love for you to share with the people, like, who is Rich Manley? Like, I know you via Instagram. I know you from when we first had our first meeting on this project years ago. That we were working with other people, or whatnot. I don't remember what that app was called, but I mean, I got that out anyways, but I can't remember what it was. Yes.
I think that was what it was.
It was Apex, yeah.
Yeah.
So please tell us, who is Rich Manley, and not just tell us the creative side, the culture side, but also tell us like where it all started. And like when you think of yourself, I always ask people this: when you think of yourself, what are the 3 words that you would say define Rich Manley?
Well, so the 3 words I would say would be learning, exploration, and determination / persistence.
That's so good.
Yeah, can I do the slash?
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
Um,
Absolutely.
because, for me, I've always been fascinated by different cultures, by history,
Yeah.
by just trying to be the best version of myself, but not really competing with anybody else, but more with competing with myself and my own. If I don't understand something, I like to learn about it.
Yeah.
If I find something intriguing, I want to know more about it. I feel like we're on this earth to gather as much knowledge as we can.
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
in receiving that knowledge, we can help educate others and help inspire others with the knowledge that we gain.
Yeah.
So for me, I would just say who I am is an explorer, and the explorer comes in both spiritually, mentally, physically. It's just an exploration of life.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. That's actually really good. You kind of nailed it right on the head. So, how would you define exploring? Being an explorer, how would you define that? What's like, say, a mission statement that would represent Rich Manley here on this earth?
Well, so for the exploring, I would say Rich Manley is. You want the mission? Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I'm talking about myself
in third person.
Third person,
I know,
yeah.
which sometimes can get a little weird, right?
Yeah, I would say. Well, Rich Manley is an adventurer and explorer through the metaphysical and physical layers of life, because there's so many things. I'm really interested when I do my travels in other cultures and indigenous cultures, because the way I view it is that we have so much to learn from our history and from our ancestors that we're slowly forgetting as we progress further and further into the modern world. And I think to regain a lot of our roots, we either go back to our ancestors, to some of the indigenous cultures that have the traditions that they still practice.
Yes.
Or also, just going to nature and pushing yourself up. The reason I do a lot of rock climbing and I do these adventure activities like scuba diving and skydiving, it's not so much the adrenaline of it as so much of look at me, what I can do.
Yeah.
It's more of how can I overcome some of the fears that are holding me back, because I think fear is the number one thing that prevents you from exploring yourself to the
max capacity.
Yeah, the max capacity.
Absolutely.
So, I was always afraid of heights. I was afraid of deep water. And so then,
what?
And these are things that you don't know, but
no.
I said to myself, look, where these fears stem from? Why am I afraid of deep water? Why am I afraid of heights?
Yeah.
And then I just let myself go, and I said, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I went back to some of the teachings I had learned in reading about the samurai, because I'm very fascinated by Japanese culture, samurai, and I've been doing martial arts all my life.
Yes.
So one of the things about the samurai is that they accepted death, and it's not like a gruesome idea. It's the idea that we're here, but if you can just let yourself go and not hold so much onto the physical here and this,
and the now,
and live through your soul, then everything becomes accessible to you, both spiritually, physically, because you're just being present. You're in your true self.
Absolutely.
That's a long-winded explanation of.
But that was
me,
so good, though.
That's kind of how I live my life.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. Where did it all begin for you?
So
this process of becoming the Rich Manley that you are today.
Where it all began for me, I would say, was my grandfather, and he was just this ball of energy, but it was reserved energy. He just had this glow in his eyes of this all-knowing, but he kept it reserved. He was almost like a sensei or like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, I love Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, because he knew things.
Yeah.
And he would watch me, and he would always say, Richie, they called me Richie.
Yeah.
He said, he has the biggest heart of all, and I know he's going to succeed at what he wants.
Yes, absolutely.
And I remember just going into his study and seeing all the artifacts that he used to have and all of his travels, and that's what really sparked the explorer in me, because I was so fascinated by all these archaeological things he would bring back, or these cultural things from the Amazon, from Tibet, from Japan.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
That's what really got me interested in saying. For me, it was like the world is so much bigger than this small little world that I'm living in now, and I wanted to experience that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. So, how did the magician side of you come out? How did that happen?
That was him too. So,
that was okay. I feel like I've heard that before on your interviews. Okay, yes.
So, but that was something that he did too, and he learned magic when he was going through his medical school, and this was like in the 40s.
Okay.
But in the 40s, they taught magicians sleight of hand, so they would be better with their hands and doing surgery.
Yes.
So he learned a lot of card tricks, and when I was 10 years old, he showed me his first card trick, which was like this trick where you make a card disappear behind your hand.
Yep.
And my hands were so small at 10 that it was just a comedy act, and I was trying to do it. The card would like fall, you know. But he said, keep practicing it. I know you have the determination, persistence in you. And in a way, that was a test for him to me to see if I had what it took to enter onto the journey he knew I would go on. Yeah. It's almost like he predicted, and he said, I see where he's going, you know, because he had traveled all these places, and he had experienced all these things, and he looked at me kind of like, I see myself in him.
You're one of the same.
Yeah, and let's see if you still have that persistence to do this.
Yes.
And I practiced it over and over again, and then eventually I got the trick. He showed me more, and that was a thing where I just really fell in love with magic.
Yeah. You know? Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yeah. You know what's interesting as I'm listening to you talk too is that I've always defined legacy as someone standing on one person's shoulders and going even higher. And what I'm hearing from you, that's exactly what your grandfather did.
Yes.
He literally was the epitome of legacy. He built a legacy that you now can stand on the shoulders of, and you're going even further than what he's gone. And you're going to go even further than he's ever gone, because that is legacy. That's how it's supposed to be. You know? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
It's interesting because just that when you said that, I remember a quote from my grandmother.
Yes.
Because I asked her a lot about, hey, how was it being, with him, married to him? And she was like, well, he would always go off and he'd disappear, and I didn't know where he was, didn't know if he was still alive up in the mountains. Yeah. There was times where he'd be on top of a summit of a mountain, in Switzerland, the Matterhorn, or in Maine, and she's like, there was blizzards that came through, and I thought, oh my God, Doug, is he okay? I don't know if he's going to come home.
Right.
But that was the mentality that he always just had, was that he just lived life to the fullest. And she understood that. She told me the same thing. She said, but I loved him because of that passion and drive that he had of exploration of himself and everything around. So.
He was limitless.
Yeah.
And that's everything.
Yeah, and so that basically inspired me.
Yeah, 100%. So I have a question that's not actually on here. Is there anything that you won't do? You're like, could you make that a little more specific?
Yeah.
When it comes to like your adventure, when it comes to your calling, your
I'll do basically. I will do anything, and I think the people that I go with and travel with, they know that, and sometimes they have to stop me. From doing stupid things, because I don't think things through. There was one incident in Australia where there was a giant crocodile, and I said, I want to get the photo. And, the thing is, they just fed him. So I said, okay, this is all right if I get this close to him. So I literally have the camera, and he's opening his mouth, and I'm just right there, and I want to get a photo. And my buddy, who's a photographer as well, was like, Rich, get back. He's trying to hold, this. And I'm looking at the one of the guys who's a crocodile expert, and he was out there in Darwin, and he said, you'll be fine. And I'm like, he says I'll be fine, I'm good. Yeah. But there's a lot of other people that worry about me because I do take those kinds of risks, and I think I've eliminated fear to the sense that I may not have the best judgment now on some of the things
of decisions that you make.
Yeah. But in terms of,
but they always turn out well.
Yeah. So I somebody said to me once, they said, Rich, somebody's protecting you. They're definitely watching over you because some of the things you do.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to take that for granted. I know that the things that I do can sometimes be dangerous.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to be reckless. So I always
use
say,
wisdom.
Yeah, I always say, okay, I'm going to do this, but I ask the experts, is this okay? You know, and I make sure that what I do is within reason.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will say though is what I won't do. I will do it, but I won't be happy about it. It's exotic foods freak me out.
I had a feeling you were gonna say that.
So,
I don't know what.
Yeah,
like worms and stuff. Or
I will not do.
That's so funny. I literally had that question in my brain as of yesterday. I was like, I wonder if he would just eat it. Oh my god, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
There's
just certain things that just
Yeah, and right, other people will do it, and I'm just like...
So many people do it, but I don't know.
And I eat very... I cook at home and stuff, but I just like to eat the basics.
Yes.
I eat for energy and fuel.
There you go.
And I don't eat necessarily
just
for...
to eat.
Yeah, for the pleasure of it.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I need fuel today. I'm really tired. I'm going to need to eat this protein, this amount of carbs, this amount of this, this, and that.
Oh my gosh, you have it down like to science.
Yeah, so, because I know my fuel is empty, I got to do this. So when I go to a country and then there's all these weird foods, I'm like, I get confused.
Yeah.
And there was one in Ethiopia that, it was the Injera, I think it is. It's a bread, it's a fermented kind of like pancake bread. Yeah. And they ferment it by putting it under the ground. Yeah. And it's from like crushed palm leaves and whatnot.
Putting it under the ground?
Yeah, they bury it like under dirt and then it ferments there. And they wrap it up.
Oh, okay.
They have it all wrapped up and then they dig a hole and they put it in there. Yeah. And I was trying it and I just could not get the taste. I just for some reason I didn't like it. Yeah. And so I would always just ask him, like, do you have, and I wanted to be, like, really polite about it. There was an alternative to that, because it came with every dish. Yeah. You know, I was eating it, I'm like, I need something else other than this. I can't take it anymore.
Like, I can't bite into this.
Yeah. So it's just food for me. Yeah. I can be a little hesitant about. I'll do it, but it's a... Yeah,
100%. I get you. Yeah. Okay, so that's so interesting that you've been saying so much about fear, because this is one of my main questions too, is did you fear the next steps? So like, for instance, where you were at the beginning of becoming Rich Manley. And not because, I watched that word very carefully, becoming, because I always tell people, if we focus so much on becoming, we actually miss the fact that we already are everything that we need to be to do what we're being called to do, right? Right. And so it's for believers and non-believers, but there's a scripture in the Bible that, I believe it's Jeremiah 1:5, and it says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I called you to be a prophet upon the nations. And so I always put, even in place of prophet, those that aren't prophets, I put in place of like, whatever it is that you were called to be, you were already that before your mere existence, right? And so oftentimes it's like, I'm careful with becoming, because a lot of times people preach, I don't know if you've ever heard someone say like, oh, you gotta become, but I'm like, guys, if you keep focusing so much on people becoming, they actually don't realize that everything that they need is already they already are it, right? Mm-hmm. So for you, in the midst of being Rich Manley, so I'm fixing my own word, in the midst of that whole spiel, in the midst of being Rich Manley, did you ever have a moment, because I see and I've heard you say, literally fear that's just not you override fear every second that you can. Have you ever had one moment in time where you did fear the next steps, like what's next for me? Or, because we're going to get into the show and all of that stuff, did you ever like wonder like, okay, well if I do this, then how will I be able to do this? Like a lot of artists and people worry about finances. They worry about just so many different layers of things that they really don't need to fear or worry about, because they just happen when you're in your purpose. But was there ever a moment in time where you were just like, oh, and fear snipped you just a little bit, and then and what'd you do in the midst of that?
Yeah, I mean, that happened, that would happen a number of times. I had a lot of anxiety, when I first came to Los Angeles, because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to start. I just went for it. And that's just something that I always do. I always just dive into something and then see how it's going to play out. Yep. You know?
That's good.
Yeah. And so, but that's the interesting thing, is that I grew up in a family that was very close. You know, like my grandfather, I was very close with him, and my mom and dad, and we, you know, we had a tight knit family. So it's kind of like the story of the Buddha. You know, the Buddha was a prince, Guatemala. He was a prince, and then he had all of this life, all these things given to him. Yeah. And then he said, you know what? I want to leave this life and go live amongst people who have strife and struggle and poverty, and I want to learn about that. And that's when he came up with Buddhism. And so that's the philosophy that how he made that. Yeah, yeah. And so I had read a lot of different philosophies and a lot of different religions when I was growing up, and I wanted to learn about the ways of thoughts of people in different cultures. Yes. And that stemmed from my martial arts. And I started martial arts when I was 12 years old. Yeah. And I was just fascinated by the philosophy, both physically and then the intrinsic element, which is the Buddhism, the Taoism, all this and the Zen that go into martial arts. And so I said to myself, okay, I need to jump. I need to empty my cup. I need to get out of this safety net. Yeah, that's good. That's martial arts really helped me get out of the safety net, because I said, look, I'm in this comfort of knowing that I have a blanket. I have my parents. I have people around me, my friends in Boston, in Massachusetts. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to go to LA, and I'm just going to just let it all go. Yep. And hope that something happens for me. Yeah. And so when I came here, that's when I was slapped with reality and said, okay, there's nobody that's going to help me. There's nobody that's going to do this. I have to start from basically nothing. Yeah. When I had everything, now I have nothing. And I had to rework and re-engineer my brain to be able to get through that, where I had financial problems, where, you know, I had to sleep on people's couches, or I was living out of my car. Yeah. And I would pack clothes in my car. Yeah. And I was like a camper explorer in the city. Yeah. You know, like trying to figure out where's the next place I'm going to stay. Yeah. Yeah. And so I built so much anxiety from that. Yeah. And when I was home, I had so much, I felt Zen. And it was almost like the Shaolin monks, when they're in the monastery, they don't have to worry about anything in the world. They know that they're there, and all they can do is focus on themselves, meditating, breathing. Yeah. But if you step outside of that world, that monastery feeling, then that fear grips you, because now it's something new, it's something different, and you're not prepared for that. And so when I was here, people were different. Their attitudes toward me were different. It was a different environment. And so that's when I had so much anxiety, and I had to learn to basically let that go and say, okay, I have everything I need. Yeah. And I remember something my grandmother told me when I came here. She said, if you lose everything else, just remember your martial arts, because your martial arts, that's what kept you grounded. That's what kept you centered. She said, if you ever get lost or lonely, know that we're here, but also practice meditating, your Zen, your martial arts, because that will remind you of where you came from. Yeah. And I would do that. And I found something that kept me centered, and I let all of that anxiety wash away. Good. And when that anxiety washed away, the path opened up, because all the clouds separate, and you know that you can see clearly, okay, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. Yeah. But it's that unknowing, it's the not knowing if you're going to be okay that causes all the cloud.
Cool.
Yeah, so. That's
so good. I think a lot of people can definitely relate to everything you just said, because fear, there's two choices with fear. You either become it or you conquer it. It's one of the two. And the acronym for fear, do you know the acronym for fear? Did anyone ever attend?
No.
No?
I don't know.
So F is false, E is for evidence, A is for appearing, R is for real. False evidence appearing real. Fear.
Makes sense.
Isn't that
it's
crazy?
Just an illusion.
Yeah, it's an illusion.
Yeah.
Most people have their blockages in their mind. Something bad has already happened, or something already didn't work, when that's not even the outcome, and they haven't even tried, or they haven't even stepped into it. And like you said with the guys, you always ask the professional or like the expert or whatever, and you just go like, well, if he's fine, then I'm fine. But it's that person that's like, and that's literally night and day. That's the exact example of fear. You either can get the shot, you can capture that moment, you can leap off that bridge. Not really, but you know what I mean. Like,
right.
like skydiving. I love skydiving.
Yeah.
You can jump out of that plane and know that the parachute's going to open, that it's going to happen, that you're going to be fine. Or you can sit in the plane and wonder, what if I would have, could have, or should have,
right,
and never actually experience it.
Right.
And your life, literally, your legacy is demolishing fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I could put it in a whole nother nutshell, it's like you are who you are, and you are owning who you are, and you're going to the distance that you've gone and still going, all because fear literally is not your friend. It doesn't even exist to you.
It tries to creep up on you, though.
Of course it does.
But you have to say, you have to say, look, no, I'm not cool with you.
Yeah.
I know I can do this.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, you know, I always looked at, like, the Shaolin monks. When I'd always been really tall, even when I was learning martial arts when I was 12, I was tall. And so I would watch all these, like, shorter martial artists and Shaolin monks who could do these flips and all these crazy things. Because they were smaller and compact and they could move a certain way. Yeah. And I said to myself, okay, I always wish I was shorter. And everybody was like, why do you wish you were shorter?
When everybody else is wishing that they were taller.
And I'm like, no, because I want to move like Jet Li and Jackie Chan, and they're small because they can move quick. Yeah. And so then I said, you know what? I can still do that. And I said, if they can do it, I can do it. And that was a mentality I adopted and said, okay, I have 2 arms, 2 legs. I'm a human just like they are, and I can do this. And so I practiced. I had to practice more because I had to do a lot of different. I had to condition my muscles and my brain and my body to move like that. Yeah, absolutely. But when I was performing, I did a lot of martial arts performances. Yeah. My friend, who was a kung fu brother of me, and he said, he's like, Rich, you're the tall guy that moves like a short guy. Yeah. You know? And I'm like, that's exactly what I've tried to do my whole life, is move that. And so, but that's just a testament of, I watch people and I say, you know what? They're doing this. Yeah. How are they doing this? Because they're pushing past the blockages in their mind that says they can't. Yes. Because you can do it. If you really think that you can.
Yeah. Anything in life we can actually do. Just a matter of doing it. And knowing that we can do it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so, what's changed your life? If it's a moment, if it's a memory, if it's a trip, if it's an encounter that you've had, if it's, what's one, I know you probably have so many, but what's one
thing that's changed my life?
Yes.
That's, I think it's happened in increments. There's different, but the start of it probably was when I went to Egypt. So it was traveling. Yeah, because I had always wanted to go to Egypt. Yeah. And that goes back to me just loving archaeology and history. Yeah. And Egypt was like this place for me that I just had this I was just drawn to it, you know? Yeah. And so I finally got to go there, and I went with my good friend James Houston, who works on the show with me. Okay, yeah. And we went, and I was just so enamored by the place, the pyramids, the culture was different, everything, and I was just like a kid in this candy shop of just like looking, you know, and he had to watch out for me, and luckily I had him with me because he was a bounty hunter, a fugitive recovery agent, so he knew like to watch for things. Yeah, and, you know, especially when you're in a place you know that you want to be careful because you don't know. Right. And so I was always like, oh, I want to go in this shop. Oh, there's the camels. I want to do, you know. And he's just like, okay, all right, let's go. But he'd be watching, like making sure because I looked like this easy target. But
like, where is he? Oh, get him.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was something that was very transformational for me because I got to live that dream of going to Egypt and seeing the Great Pyramids. Yeah. And when I was in the Great Pyramid, in the main chamber there, I just had this experience where the walls, they're made of a different material. It's a dark marble. And the resonation, there's a reverberation within there. There's an energy, a sound bath almost. Yeah. Where you can feel this. Yeah.
I'm already like kind of feeling it right now. You're like describing it.
And I said to myself, this is just miraculous. And I know that if this exists, there's other things like this in the world that exists, and I want to see these things. And it changed my mindset of, again, being in my comfort zone, getting out of that comfort zone and saying, there's a whole world in front of me. And even though this was my dream to come here, now I have other dreams to see other things that are just as extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah, that was life-changing for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys better be ready for this. This man's a genius.
I don't know.
He's a travel genius. He's a heartfelt genius. He is amazing. I just had to say that. I had to do that. So I want you to tell people where they can watch your show.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell them where they can find you on social media, website, all the goodies. All the goodies are great. Of course, I definitely want you to tell them so that they can go and click, follow, like, view, download.
Cool. All right. I'll tell them. Okay. So, you can follow my experiences and my journey on my social media, which is Rich C. Manley, and it's spelled Manley. And then I also have a website called Expedition Rich, www.expeditionrich.com. And those have a lot of my expeditions and travels as well. The TV show that I'm doing, that website is www.cultureshockmagic.com. And it has all of the updates and episode releases on there, so you can keep up to date on the show.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm like, you're about to take off, boss. Okay, so this is the final thing that you have to do.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. This is my favorite book. It's titled Believe.
I like it.
I wish I would have created it first, but I did not. Creating something similar but a little bit different, but this thing is epically amazing. You are going to take it and you're going to open it to whatever page this happens to open, and you're going to read both sides to them.
All right.
And then express how it kind of like relates to your life, because it always does. I swear, every person that opens it's scary.
I like this challenge.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know, me too. I do it every day.
So just any page.
Any
Just
page.
Open it up.
Yeah, like a magic trick.
All right, here we go. I'm feeling right here. Believe you might be that light for someone else.
Oh my gosh. Of course you picked that one.
I just opened the book. And the next side. You do build in darkness if you have faith. When the light returns, you have made of yourself a fortress. You may even find yourself needed and sought by others as a beacon in their dark. And that's Olga Rosemouth. I think I said that right.
Can you believe that you opened that one? Oh my gosh. That's kind of scary. This happens every time.
That is actually very interesting.
Wait, let me see it. Okay, I'm going to take it to the camera too. Whoa! What?
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's a magic trick that I'll have to do. Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Did you like, set it up so that I'm going to open to that? No, right now.
I wish I could have. I don't know magic, but
no.
I wish I had magic tricks, but I don't. I got really good prayers, though, that make magical things happen.
Yeah. But I'm honored that I got that page.
I'm so happy you got that page. This is freaking amazing. Rich, thank you so much for doing this, for being available. I know that you're literally never here, so I appreciate you 100%.
Of course.
And you guys, I thank you guys for tuning in this moment with us, for taking time out of your schedules to hear the legacy and the journey of Rich Manley. I want you guys to support him. I want you guys to stand by him. I want you guys to literally be a new advocate for his legacy, and to know that he's doing something that a lot of people don't do, and he's highlighting and shining light on the spaces and places that most people just walk past and don't even recognize, let alone make time for. And he's doing that all over the world in the midst of his extremely amazing adventures of life that most people dream about, but they never get to do them, and they're freaking amazing. Sometimes I'm on IG oh my gosh, Rich, and I'm I want to do that. And I'm pretty adventurous. I'm a little too adventurous sometimes. It scares people, but watching his journey and watching his life is literally for me, it's a true definition that God is real, and that he exists, and that he handpicks special people that he knows will do great and do right by the gifts that they're given, and expand them and take them across the world. And that's exactly what he's doing. So, thank you, Rich.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh my
You guys have just heard part 1
of the exclusive interview of Live in the Now with Reyna Joy Banks interviewing Rich Manley. There are so many more powerful moments coming your way where we have a true encounter with God all by himself. So don't forget to tune in, rate, subscribe, download, and share as we take this journey into really highlighting what it is to live in the now with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Just stopping by to say I love you, all of you. Bye.